Well, thank you for inviting me to speak at this VC panel. I guess I must have passed the first one. I'm here for the second time. And those of you that never heard the presentation, it's a very highly complex presentation about mathematical models. So what I would like to do is everyone in this audience to memorize the formula for the Latin hypercube sample. Now, not really, but I do want you to remember the word algorithm, the A word. So it's important to remember the word algorithm because it's changing the way we treat cancer. And cancer is over 1.5 million new patients next year, multiple therapies. You heard about all the different things that people want to do to physicians today, give them even more things to think about. And even though we know a lot about cancer, we know about the disease interaction, we know about the therapies interactions, it's an ever-expanding pool of knowledge, which is a problem. Good, smart, and intelligent, a physician as they may be, we are reaching the level of cognitive capacity. People can't make decisions anymore. There's just too many variables, let alone make decisions that are going to predict what it's going to look like down the road. Oh, and there's some tools, by the way, and this is what they look like. This is horrible. In any advanced decision-making system, this would be unacceptable. It's just general bulk statistics based on some generic profiles of a statistical sample of a population that may or may not be relevant to me, the patient. The big idea was driving, we came out of this journey that we called Sarah's journey, a prototypical patient. Today, the doctor will go and manually collect all these different things that you heard about today and all the other 700 different treatments for this particular cancer, and all the things that go along with the molecular markers, and all the things that I don't understand, because I'm a business guy, but physically then assemble a solution and present it to the patient. Now, if the patient is a woman who wants to have kids and is concerned about infertility, guess what? That doesn't exist anywhere. It doesn't show up anywhere. So the physician has to now add that piece of information into his or her decision matrix, let alone, do I want to pay for it? Who's going to pay for it? Is my hair going to fall out? All those things are manually done. And then once a treatment is prescribed, Sarah, the patient, is part of this general statistical group, the great people in this case. There's nothing about her anywhere else that can give you data. And that kept pushing this big idea, which was, what if we turned this thing on its head? What if changing, instead of taking Sarah and trying to shove it through some statistical models, then manually try to figure out what treatment she fits into, what if we turned it upside down? Completely turned it on its head and said, what if I started with all the treatments, every one available today, and push them through statistics, push them through advanced algorithms, and then give the 1 or 2 specific treatments that fit Sarah? Nothing that a human being can do just using their brain. And that's the idea. In order to do that, you need some explicitly and very complex algorithms to do that. And they're out there today. We use them to predict the weather, monitor traffic patterns, do portfolios. And Moffitt has the best, if not the only, and definitely the most unique, integrated mathematical oncology department in the world for 10 years. They're the first in the field that have that. So we started thinking about, how do we do that? Well, how do you do that is you have to combine 4 things. You have to take disease mechanisms, which things like Watson and some of those things that we're talking about, the data, big data models, don't do. Watson don't do medicine. Watson looks at data. Take that, but then take disease mechanisms that we understand from the lab, from the clinic, take patient data, take profile, match it with standard of care, and run simulations and figure out what the right combination, what the right treatment looks like. This is what the journey looks like the way we want to do it. You take all that information, and by the way, if somebody came up with a new test today that doctors haven't heard of until next year's ASCO conference, guess what? We can run it straight into the algorithm, right? Because we can do that as we continue developing the program. Take all that, take patient information, take personal preferences, run them through the algorithm, and not run them once. The way the system works, we build a mathematical model of Sarah, an avatar, and then we run tens, hundreds, or thousands of simulations of treatments against that avatar. And 999 out of 1,000 times we kill the avatar. Who cares? It's a mathematical model. The one time that we find the perfect treatment, that's the one that we provide to the doctor. Sarah is no longer just a bunch of blob in a great people pool of statistical data. Sarah is an individual, and what makes us even more unique is I now can take that individual once the treatment is applied and receive data back into my system and fine-tune it. So if Sarah is responding to what we suggested as the most optimal treatment, the way we thought it was going to happen, leave it alone. But if Sarah is responding even slightly different, we can go back, feed the data back into the simulation, back into the algorithms, and come back and adjust the treatment on a continual basis. This is what a modern decision support system should look like for a doctor, where they can go in, not only look at all the data in one screen, but also be able to, well, what if I change this? What if I change that? What if I add, what if my patient has low risk for toxicity and I want to modify that? That's what it should look like. That's what we're working towards. You don't build something like that with just people like me, right? I'm a business guy. I'm the CEO. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded a dozen companies. I'm an engineer, but you need a lot more power. So Dr. Anderson and Dr. Robertson Tessie, the PhD team that actually works at Moffitt, they're the integrated mathematical oncology team. They're the ones that generate the mathematical models for each individual cancer. They're the guys that actually understand. They're the ones that do medicine. They go to the lab and actually do medicine and describe disease mechanisms. Now, I'm a bona fide geek. I'm an engineer, and I've built systems, but I'm a little bit on the older side of the curve. So I recruited somebody who's a lot better than I am, and a lot more current. Ryan Durrell's been recognized as one of the most innovative technology officers in the Southeast. And he also brought along the resources and powers of Agile Thought, which is a well-recognized leading-edge software development company in town. But then when we looked at all that, we still said, yeah, but none of us knows oncology marketing or product development in the medical space. So we recruited Dr. Schaefer to be our scientist, chief marketing officer. And we have been talking to clinicians and business people who run hospitals, investors in the private equity space, trying to continue fine-tuning the message. Our timelines are just like any other startup company. 10 years worth of research still doesn't mean you can build a company with that. We follow the basic design, build, launch, grow model, and we're right now in the design build stage. We're building prototypes, we're validating, market validating, we're building economic models, and then we are driving that to the next stage to have a prototype of a platform launched over the next 12 months. We've been funding it ourselves, for the most part cash and capital contributions and working for no pay. And sometime this year, we're going to start raising a Series A. We think the total that's going to get us to a market launch is about $5 million. And we're going to try to manage how we raise that money over the period of time. Rather than talk about customers and sales, I'd like to talk about markets. We cannot launch this product without physicians accepting it. And you can't just go tell a physician, here, there's my product, look at it. They look for the gold seal of approval. They look for ASCO to say, yes, this makes sense. They look for other physicians to do that. And even if you did that, you can't make this move forward without the health plans approving it. And as a matter of fact, we made it to be one of the, I believe it was the only company that participated in the Miami program for health packs, which is an innovative program for startup companies funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield, because they do see the benefits. And then there's pharmaceutical companies, both potentially customers and investors. And let me focus on them for a minute. Pharma spends billions of dollars every year in clinical trials. Guess how they pick the patients that go in the clinical trial? The gray people, or blue people, or purple people. They use the same statistical models that everybody else uses to do that. By giving them access to this virtual simulation world where they can actually apply their early drugs on virtual patients, and just like I said, even if they kill them all, who cares? They see a significant benefit in improving real clinical trials. So we can help them pick the right population for the clinical trial, as well as speed up drug discovery. It's not a small market. And we're not thinking small. I didn't come here to tell you just about what we want to do for cancer. At the end of the day, we're building a platform that's going to be used for any disease that requires complex decision making. And just in case anybody wonders how big the market is, this is just cancer. 5 types. This could be a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, remember that word that I asked you to remember at the beginning? No, not the Latin hypercube, right? The algorithms. We use them to figure out what book to read on Amazon, on Google searches, which turn to make on Google Maps. Heck, we use it to figure out who to date on eharmony.com. But we don't use advanced mathematical modeling and algorithms to figure out how to provide treatments for patients. To me, that doesn't make any sense. And that's why we're here. That's what we're trying to build.